Everybody talks about scaling as though it's the most exciting part of business. Here's the real truth. Scaling isn't sexy. It's boring, it's repetitive. It's systems, it's process, it's meetings, it's conversations. And that's it. And that's boring. And if you're not willing to master the boring, you will never get that explosive growth. Most entrepreneurs run into the stumbling block of trying to reinvent everything all the time. Think of what they're doing. Their job is to produce a new company with new ideas, with new equipment, and so forth. They don't have to invent how to do CRM, how to do programming, how to do all those things. And yet, so many entrepreneurs fail because they try to do everything new. I want to share with you something that I've been working on for a long time that is very important to me, and that is a Discord channel for business. On it, there will be a lot of free information, but also access to me. So you can have the ability to ask me questions, and I can respond to your particular problems and difficulties, and also help you get started. I'm really looking forward to being able to interact with you individually on there. I look forward to seeing everybody on there, and I will be waiting for you. Now, let's get back to our video. They try to do new platforms, new funnels, new ideas, all in places where that's not necessary because they can do their job without the new things. Concentrate on the job at hand. The end result of trying to reinvent everything is a scattered business and a burned out founder. The business that scales successfully does not always reinvent the wheel, and then they modify them to fit the particular incidents of their own company. They do not start from scratch. Growth does not come from chaos. It comes from consistency. People try to reinvent things because they're creative. Entrepreneurs are by definition creative. The problem is they are trying to improve on somebody else's product, somebody else's idea, and that's not their field. That's not what they're supposed to be concentrating on. They're supposed to be concentrating on their product. Spend all of your mental power in inventing new things for the stuff that you're being paid to do. SOPs, standard operating procedures, sounds real boring, doesn't it? But that is what enables a company to expand. You don't think McDonald's can serve 69 million people a day with teenagers at the registers by doing everything different with each customer. No, they do the same thing across the board. And when it works for you, you should be doing the same thing in your company. If you don't have written process, and a written process that you follow and modify, that way lies chaos. You're dependent upon whatever someone remembers from one moment to the next. You're telling customers different things at different times, and you don't know what you told them. You're wrong, you miss things, you confuse the customer, you confuse your suppliers, you confuse everyone. Follow procedure. If you are depending on what you can keep in your mind at any one time, you will very rapidly run into a limit. There's very few things you can keep in your mind successfully at one time. Very few customers, very few product lines. But if you have a standard process in place, it simplifies the dealing with each one of those and with every customer because you're doing largely the same thing most of the time. And that saves a lot of effort. Write your process down. Write the procedures that your team is supposed to follow down and enforce the following of it, and you will find that they not only do not eat up your time, they free your time, they help you be successful, and they make your customers love you. It is a failure of most entrepreneurs to think that putting procedure into place is a waste of time. I have fought people that worked for me that had that idea. It is a mistake. The mistake comes very straightforwardly. It's how much you can keep in your head at one time. If they try to keep everything, they keep nothing. They start missing goals, they start confusing customers. Don't put up with it. Creativity and originality is greatly overrated. McDonald's is successful not because every hamburger is different, but because every hamburger is the same. You know what you're getting when you go into McDonald's in Timbuktu or in Washington, D.C. or in Seattle, Washington. You know what to expect and you get what you expect. That is consistency. That isn't creativity, that's consistency. And that works across the board in all companies. It is not about doing everything. It is about doing the right thing and doing it over and over again where it applies. You want to see real growth? Post consistently. Follow up consistently, deal with people consistently, and make consistent products, and you'll find real growth will follow. In business, creativity gets attention, but it's consistency that builds empires. It's the ability to depend upon you and depend upon your product that causes people to come back to you, not because you're being original. They don't want you being original. They want you doing what you said you were going to do. So go and do it. I've seen many a case where people said, I'll just add this to what the customer wants, or I'll just modify the product this way without talking to anybody. That way lies absolute chaos and failure. Don't do it. Follow process. If you want to change something, have a process for changing it. Consistency and the repetition of a successful strategy is far more important than innovating as what you're doing as far as your strategy is concerned. Look at IBM. For many, many years, IBM sold iron. They sold big computers that did one thing. They did a particular form of calculation, and they were extremely successful in doing that. That didn't change for 50 years. Why? Because they were consistent, they gave the customer what the customer wanted, and the customer knew exactly what they were getting. Repetition is the core to success. I can tell you what we did, and that was in my first company, the company where we were doing optical character recognition, we made a system that did one thing. It would read pages from a book or a magazine and translate it into text that computers could understand. And we did the same thing for hundreds and for thousands of customers. We didn't try to innovate at every step. We tried to simply make it better and track it at every step. And it was very successful in doing that. With the second company, when we did that for the mail, we produced a beautiful system for the United States Postal Service, one that's still in use for tracking the mail. And then we expanded it to 25 other countries. But we used the same system in the 25 other countries, and we insisted that they talk to each other, and they do. So that's the success, not a new system every time you turn around, the same thing applied appropriately. I'll give you an example of that. My second company routed, and still does, route the mail for the United States and a bunch of other countries. We started it, of course, for the United States. In order to communicate between the machines, we had to come up with a system for sending metadata back and forth, which we did. Public domain, open source, we didn't care. When it came to expanding into other countries, we were already selling to the UK and to France and to Germany and to a bunch of other countries the mail sorting system. The discussion came up of how do you communicate the metadata among all these countries? I went to an international conference as a guest of the United States Postal Service. And Lockheed was trying to push their proprietary system. And I raised my hand and I said, look, our system's free. We already sort the mail in these countries. It's very easy for us to communicate with ourselves. And the guy from the United States Postal Service raised his hand and said, as handlers of 40% of the world's mail, we agree with him. And we carried the day. But that was consistency, doing the same thing for 25 different countries. And it worked. Most entrepreneurs that fail quit too early. And why do they do that? It actually is a product of the fact that makes them entrepreneurs, and that is they want to see innovation, they want to see change, they want to see things coming about getting better. But the reality of life is that things are mostly boring, and they're faced with these boring things, and they see problems, and they have to fix the problem. They see another problem, they have to fix another problem. They're not innovating, they're just fixing problems. They're dealing with grouchy customers and so on. This burns people out really quickly unless they're prepared for it. And that is what kills an awful lot of businesses. They shut down before they have had enough time to know that they're successful. Discipline beats excitement every single time. If you're changing what you're doing every time you meet a new situation, you will soon have too many situations going on for you to track. And that is a fatal mistake for a company. Insofar as it is possible, always do the same thing, however boring it might seem. And then modify it for the individual situations. Don't try to be creative from the ground up. This is all part of a piece. Don't do things that have already been done that you can use. And that is a mistake that entrepreneurs around the world have made, is trying to reinvent everything. Don't. If you're a new entrepreneur, once you've got your company going, don't chase the shiny objects. That time is past. That's when you're coming up with the idea that's going to run your company. Once you have done that, put process in place, put systems in place, and get into the boring but successful way of growing your company.